and welcome to Now Journey. Now, okay, so let's talk about the hotels. All of our hotels that we use on Now Journey, whether it's our deluxe properties or our classic properties, are truly in what we call the historic centers. You'll actually see as we're traveling through Italy, the black and white kind of a Target logo or sign. Not Target the store, but like the Target where you shoot. And so it'll say that means Centro or Centro. That is the historic center of the different Italian villages. So they have that in all these different places because Italy, even though as a country is relatively young, as a territory is very old. And so all of our hotels are generally located in these prime locations in the hearts of the cities and towns that we're traveling through. And as Kent was pointing out, these are truly centuries old buildings. And so sometimes the layout and configuration of the rooms, and this is the good thing because we're traveling to a foreign country. It's not our country. We're traveling and we're visitors there. So we get to experience things that are different. And sometimes those things are going to be like, well, I would totally do it this way. And then other times they'll be like, I have no idea why they would do it this way.
It makes no sense to me at all.
But it's a foreign country, so we go in with the right attitude there. But so sometimes the room configurations, the layouts are a little bit unusual, but always steeped in character. So that's good.
I can't wait. I'm getting excited already for this weekend.
And that's true. It really is true. We talk about this constantly. We're especially like over the winter time. We're like, I can't wait to get back over there. And now that it's here, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already May. But anyway,
it's gotta be May.
Yeah. So some of the hotels that you will be in, some will be your rooms will have great views of interesting maybe canals or even alleyways.
But even the alleyways are not just like, it's not some back alley. It's like some little walkway through that. It's just picturesque. And you look out the window, you open your shutters and you're looking out and you're going, this is amazing. This is amazing.
I've seen a few back alleys, but and so then, like we're talking about some of the rooms, you'll open up the window or the window will already be open. And you'll be looking out over the plains of Trasimeno, which is near Cortona. And you'll see, something that is literally out of the movie Under the Tuscan Sun. You'll be like, oh, it's so gorgeous. But the point is that the rooms that we have are generally randomly assigned. And so we just rely on our hotel partners to give us the right rooms. But if there's something, that's a ride, definitely talk with the front desk and bring your tour captain into play if needed. But really all the rooms are so different with different views and that kind of thing. I want to talk a little bit about what is the amenities in the deluxe hotels. I would say we've had just mostly deluxe hotels, deluxe packages selected this season, which is just interesting because it varies a little bit each year. For this year, mostly people are in deluxe, which is great. I am a hotel snob, so I definitely like, if I can afford it, I like the nicer properties. And so the deluxe hotels will have all the amenities that you would generally want, in the bathrooms, shampoo, conditioner, lotions, toiletries, robes, house slippers, daily housekeeping, that kind of thing. Bidet. Our classic hotel properties will be clean, safe, and still in the hearts of the cities and villages that we visit and travel through. They will have a continental breakfast, whereas our deluxe hotels will have a full-on hot breakfast, either with buffet and or table service. And so it's however you want your breakfast to be. And so just want to talk a little bit about that contrast. I also want to talk about, one of these days, I always say this, I will write a book, How to Not Start a Tour Company. And one of the chapters will be of blow dryers and curling irons. And so sometimes blow dryers, while you're out on travel, they're simply just not as robust as the ones that we like to use back home. Curling irons have also been known to blow out the electricity in these century-old buildings. So my point is, just be ready to change your hairstyle. If you rely on those two tools, now the hotels will have blow dryers. And the curling irons, if you use that a lot, I don't know what the trends are, but maybe you do. And so that brings us to something where we want to talk about converters and adapters. Kent, do you want to talk a little bit about what that all involves?
Sure, yeah. And also just to a brief thing back on the curling iron, because my wife has a curling iron, said don't bring it, because even with an adapter or a converter, it's probably going to blow the curling iron or your blow dryer. You can, however, for like 20 or maybe 30 euro, go by the local pharmacia, like a pharmacy, and pick up one there. Like I said, 20, 30 euro, that is actually it's spec'd out for Italy.
The curling irons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway,
Excellent.
so the electricity comes out of the wall socket at 220 volts compared to the US, which we use 110. So that's where that discrepancy happens. You can bring I bring a converter. An adapter just makes you able to plug in your cords, but a converter will actually convert it from 220 to 110.
Yeah.
And anytime I plug my computer in, I always use a converter.
Now, I was talking with Kent before we went live tonight, and I was talking about how on my MacBook, it's got the big white block
It does,
thing on
yeah.
it, and that's the converter, I've
Right.
been told.
Sure.
And so you don't necessarily have to, but I know Kent
I
is
just do
tech
it.
genius.
Just in case.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and kind of protect all your
Yeah.
devices. But that's really the difference between the adapter. It literally adapts the plug to the Italian plug.
Yeah.
And the converter converts the electricity.
And you can get any of these converters on Amazon or like $20 or like $15 or $30, depending on the extent of all the plugins that you want. And I always order something and it arrives in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have those just in case.
And I should have brought this for show and tell, but I have a converter adapter. It's actually this box with like multiple plugins.
Oh, yeah.
And all the
cool.
USB things.
Yeah.
And you plug it in. It sounds like a little power generator.
Really?
But it works
Wow.
really well. So I plug everything into that. It's just
that's
like
cool.
one thing.
Yeah. That's
I'm sure
awesome.
I'm sure that's doing great wonders for their electrical out of that particular
Suddenly,
socket. but-
suddenly the Wi-Fi doesn't work on that block, but
all right. So if you have questions about converters or adapters, feel free to chat questions tonight or contact Sherry or myself here at Now Journey's offices, and we'll be happy to respond to you about that. Now, let's continue down the path. Let's talk a little bit about the food and the culture in Italy. And when you think about the cuisine of Italy, raise your hand if you like Italian food. And you can raise your hand with the Google Meet. That's kind of beep, 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 beep. So I love Italian food. And it's quite interesting because, we grow up here in the United States in particular, and we have a lot of Italian food. And when I first started going to Italy, some of what I grew up with was traditional. It actually matched what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Then a lot of it was different, like true Italian food was kind of different. And so it's just a reliance upon delicious vegetables, the tomatoes. You know how they say, the tomatoes are just better there. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of the tomatoes are actually grown on this volcanic soil from Mount Vesuvio down in Campania in that region. And those of you who are going down to the Amalfi Coast, you'll see all this up close and personal. But all the different food, and it's prepared by local families, restaurants that we frequent. It's just fantastic. So your taste buds are definitely in store for some great experiences as we go.
And each of the regions, I mean, it's farm to table. It's fresh. It's the food from the region. So when we're in Venezia and Venice, you're going to have a risotto that is, from the region. And different fishes and seafood from the region, and it's just region to region. Some things will be common throughout. Others are specific to where we are in the location.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous.
And so we'll touch on all the different meals real quickly. And let's start with breakfast in our hotels. I mentioned earlier that with Deluxe, you have the table service or breakfast buffet or breakfast in your room, all included, where our classic package will have more of a continental breakfast, that kind of thing, which is like an assortment of cold cuts, pastries, toastettes, that kind of thing. It's more of a continental plus. It's not an American continental.
No, I was going to say, it's not your continental that you get at Hampton.
Yeah.
Or wherever. It's an extensive breakfast still, but it's still a variety of meats and cheeses and vegetables and some things you wouldn't think that you would have at breakfast.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic.
Yeah. So you'll enjoy breakfast if you're a breakfast eater. What about lunch, and what time is lunch in Italy? The answer to that is traditionally lunch doesn't really kick off till around 1:15ish to 2 o'clock, somewhere through there. We generally say 1:30 is the perfect lunchtime in Italy. In America, and I don't know about your local culture, but a lot of the culture where I worked in corporate land, people were going to lunch at 11:30. Like, we're ready for lunch at 11:30.
Yeah.
And so Italians are just still having their their third latte, or not. Oh, I'm so sorry, not latte. Their third espresso.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Milk stops at 10:30. We'll talk about that in a second about coffee. And so lunch is usually a big event, starting at around 1:15. Can last a couple of hours in all reality. And they have great business and successful businesses in Italy, if you can believe it. And so a little tip here when you're searching for that quick lunch, my advice is maybe try not to eat every meal on the main piazza. Now, when I get my group to Florence, usually I like to eat my lunch right there on the main piazza in Piazza Signoria. But for every lunch, you don't want to do that necessarily, because it's just going to be a little more pricier, and you'll find the majority of the locals are not eating there as well. And so just go off a couple blocks off the main piazza, and you'll find nice little restaurants, little cafes, little places for pizzetta, which is a piece of pizza, sandwiches, all kinds of things just off the main piazza, and you'll save a few euros as well by doing that.
Yeah, two sides to that. One, it's very tourism in the piazzas because that's where everybody is, but it's also the iconic places to be. So you sit there with an espresso or a cappuccino or whatever you've got with a light, snack, and it's fantastic to actually sit there and just take it in. But yeah, what Mark was saying, you get off a couple of blocks, or you walk off a little block, or the other side of the piazza, and you're outside of it, and all of a sudden you're into more of the culture instead of the tourism areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the journey style of dinner? Well, we are proud of our dinner experiences.
Oh, yes.
What time is dinner? We'll start with that first.
Yeah.
So in Italy and on a journey tour, we like to dine when the locals do. So we try to, be like the Italians as much as possible, because that's why we're there. We're wanting to get to know this country, be immersed in it. So in Italy, dinner really commences around 8:30 to 9 o'clock. And so for some Americans, that's actually right on the money. I tend to eat later, but for many Americans, that's bedtime.
That's bedtime.
And so just remember, you don't have to fret too much. You're going to, first of all, your body clock's going to be completely off. And so you're going to be ready to party till late into the
gauge
night.
it starting from day one.
Yes. And also, it's a tradition in Italy to eat basically what we call a snack, but they will call it an aperitivo. So at the end of the day, they have usually a little beverage and some little finger foods, as we would call them, little snacks, and call them aperitivo.
Yep.
And hors d'oeuvres, thank you.
Yeah.
These are all found kind of at the hotels as well as local bars and that kind of thing. Now, the bar in Italy is actually, in some circles, if you think I need to go to the bar, well, you're thinking, oh, what are you going to do? Go have some drinks? Well, yes, you could, but that's where the coffee shops are located. The coffee shop is the bar. And so you go there for your coffee, you go there for all kinds of things, and including snacks. And so just know that if dinner seems late to you and you're ready to eat around 5:36, you're going to have many options to be able to, make yourself stay the longevity for that evening.
Yeah.
Have something there, Kent, Tom?
No, I always think about the first night when people are there. Obviously, we try to encourage everyone to arrive a day before the true day one kicks off, so you can kind of adjust your body clock. But when we kick off that first meal that night at 8 o'clock, and people are already going, it's kind of late. But then we're starting with the antipasti, which is your appetizers, and then we get to a primi, did you want to kind of run?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You run a preemie. Go ahead.
I was going to say before we jump into
Okay,
that,
yeah, I'll wait.
because we've got
I'll wait,
a
'cause I
lot
get
of information on that. That's
I get
awesome.
excited about the food.
He likes the food. There's another thing that you'll probably enjoy on most of our tours, and that's called the cicchetti, which is a typical Venetian thing. It's also called Baccari. But the cicchetti is basically where you find a nice little bar, and you'll see a display of all of these different crostinis and different appetizers, really. And so you can, for like, €9, you buy a beverage and you get, 4 or 5 of these cicchettis. And it's a nice, really typical, true Venetian experience to stand around, drink your wine with your friends and eating. And so,
and when you do multiple of those areas, because you can just do one, but typically you'll do one and then you'll go to another and you might hit 2 or 3, maybe 4. They call it a cicchetti crawl. And that's what the crawl is. You're going from place to place.
And we have at nowjourney.com on our menu, I believe under prepare, information about the cicchetti crawl. So if you want to do that, I'm planning to do it on my tour. I'm actually, you're flying out Friday. I'm flying out Sunday.
Are you really?
We could have been on the same flight almost.
I didn't even know that.
But I'm going to a completely different part of it. So I'm actually leading a wonderful tour called the Puglia Adventure. So check that out.
Going to Puglia.
That's right.
Yeah,
Can't
south
wait.
part of Italy.
Yeah.
I'll be going into Milano.
Milano, very good. All right, so we're going to break out our Italian accents as the wine continues to get consumed. Hopefully you guys have some delicious beverage right now as we are totally entertaining you. I know we are. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the traditional journey dining experience. As we have talked, spoken about this, we don't eat at touristy restaurants if at all possible. Rather, we prefer to truly be at off the beaten path restaurants.
Immersed.
Yeah, venues that kind of reflect the local cuisine and are owned by locals, by the local Italian families. I want to share this story with you. In Italian culture, someone who shares a recipe or a meal, a dinner, is really, it's more than just the food. It's more than just the transaction. They're actually, these Italians are proclaiming their sense of belonging to where they're from. All right, stay with me here. This is important. And for us to be able to share in this is a privilege. And so, yes, there's a business transaction. Restaurants are there to make money and that kind of thing. But from the Italian perspective, there's a good pride, a good passion that comes with it. And so we love to take part in that transaction, if you will, of really sharing something from their heart with us. So it's really a privilege for us to be able to do that.
And to receive that, it's an honor for them to be able to service in that way.
Yeah.
And so we're there and we honor them by accepting this gift.
Absolutely.
That's
and
amazing.
We're excited to introduce this to you as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, as you're about to jump into, the whole execution of the Italian dining experience. What was the first thing you mentioned?
The antipasti.
That's right.
Yeah.
So timing on the tour is important. And so you may have noticed on the logistics itineraries, we don't put many times schedules beyond the first arrival day. And that's by design, because your tour captain will provide that information to you the day before, the night before, what's going to happen the next day. Now, if you're looking for some free time to maybe do some kind of optional excursion, we don't really press optional excursions too hard, as hopefully you've observed. We do have 2 or 3 here or there that are fun and good, but we really want you to be able to be immersed in the commentary from our local expert Italian guys that morning, and then let it kind of stew in a positive way.
Let it marinate.
There you go. That's a better word. Kind of let it soak in. And so you will have some different free times during the day. That brings me into our timing of dinner. So as we've already mentioned, we kind of eat late in the evening, which is actually early for Italians. As I mentioned, they're 8:30, 9:30 sometimes, and not all the time. They don't usually have constantly big dinners like we're going to be doing. But they do have those big dinners.
Because if you go by a restaurant and then you have outdoor seating and you're walking by at 7 o'clock, no one is there.
Yeah.
No one's there. It's because nobody has even prepared to go to dinner yet.
And it's all true. And you'll see this.
Yeah.
And so the Journey Tour captain, who is your host for the evening for our welcome dinners and our included dinners throughout the tours, they'll order the antipasti or the appetizers as soon as you're seated. These will be plates and morsels, which kind of generally reflect the region that we're traveling through, which is important. Then they're paired with red and white wine varieties, sodas, cocktails, whatever you like.
Yes. And that way you get, because a lot of people see or may not see the menu, but may not know what to order in this foreign country. If you've never been there before, even if you've been there before, but this particular restaurant has a different menu, it's like, I have no idea. And a lot of them are great because they'll have the English conversion. They're so helpful to us, but you may still not recognize what it is.
Right.
So that's why we, as a tour captain, I'll pre-order things and get them going, and you'll get to sample a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and this is the appetizers, the antipasti that will come out, and it's a great way, as you just explained, a great way to be able to kind of try new things. Following that will be the presentation of the menus, and so you'll actually order from the menus from the restaurant, and then the Italian dining experience. We mentioned way earlier in the broadcast, aperitivo. The aperitivi, this is where you are settling the business of the day over a beverage, and then business is done. And then we talked about the antipasti. So those come out with the beverages, and then that's followed by the primi, or the primary course, the first course, I should say.
The first main course.
There we go. The first main.
Because there are two main courses.
And usually the primi, you'll order it from the menu. You can order like pasta. It's usually pasta.
It's typically a pasta.
And historically, it's been kind of a smaller plate of pasta. But I think it's just growing over time.
Sometimes you might think that's the main dish. You're going, that's my entree, but it's really the first main dish.
Yes, and so at the first dinner, like if you're going to Bellagio on Lake Como, that dinner kind of breaks all the rules. It's almost like a Michelin experience. And so just wait and see what happens there. I'm talking more about Venice. And so with the Venice dinner, after the primi, you'll have the secondi, or the second main, the entree, as we would say. And so the second will be more of like a meat of fish, some type of
your protein.
That kind of thing.
Yep.
And then that is followed by not followed, but that is in harmony with the contorni. And this is going to be a side like potatoes, legumes, beans, sides. Different side dishes that complement the dishes that we're ordering.
In family style, so everybody can sample different things.
The contorni is family style. Excellent. And finally, of course, is the dolce, the dessert, delicioso. And so later that night, you're sure to sleep blissfully until you wake the next morning and discover
no headache.
No headache. This is true. Yeah, I say this. It's true. No headache. And secondly, Italian coffee.
Oh, yes.
And so let's quickly, we're just looking at the time check. We're doing pretty good, I think. Right. We're halfway there.
Excellent. And we're just, halfway through talking about dinner.
Yes. We'll increase the speed. Remember, you can ask questions through the Google Meet or on our website on the live chat right now. Sherry Moore is live with us, and she's able to answer questions as well. Now, she actually has a great question. What about food allergies? If you have a gluten or some type of food allergy, Italy and the restaurants that we frequent are champs when it comes to food allergies and being able to provide dishes that are delicious, but also not going to make you have a reaction. And so be it gluten, celiac, or some other type of food allergy, make sure you have communicated with us already with your tour registration form. And if you haven't, go ahead and email Sherry or myself, or tell your tour captain on that first night, just pull them aside, say, I forgot to put on there, I'm gluten intolerant.
Which is totally fine, because then we will communicate with the restaurant and with whoever it may be at the restaurant that we've been talking to and made a reservation. And they're so about serving you. And even though we've done all of this communication, they will still at the table, does anyone have any food allergies? And they're so sensitive to that.
Yeah.
So
even
no
the
worries
breakfast,
at all.
Even the breakfast, the hotels will actually react to that as well and be able to provide you some good options as well.
Yeah.
So we mentioned about the next morning and no headache, which is fantastic. And I don't know what it is. We have our theories. But you can consume this delicious wine of Italy, red or white, and
Yeah.
or rosé,
Mhm.
and you don't have the same issues like I do. I love California wines, California red wines,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I drink a glass of that and I have a headache at 2:30.
Yeah.
So in Italy, this does not happen.
It's
Mark
really
my words,
wild.
and if it happens to you, call me after you get back home, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it.
Mhm.
And so Italian coffee the next day. For those of you who enjoy coffee, they have everything you need when it comes to coffee.
Yeah.
So I want to mention a few things. First of all, the general coffee that we drink in America would be considered a cafe Americano.
Mhm.
Named Americano because the World War II GIs who would get the coffee from the Italians, and it was this thick stuff, and they were like, can you add some hot water to that? Thus, Cafe Americano was born in Italy.
Yeah.
Now, Italians will typically drink espresso, which are in the little tiny cute cups. Very powerful, very delicious,
Very
and there's different
strong.
varietals of Italian coffee, so you should try all the different ones.
Yep.
And then I'll even say, have some Italian espresso poured over some vanilla gelato.
Affogato.
Ooh, affogato.
Affogato. This is
You
my
will not
dessert.
forget affogato.
What was the name of it? I forgot though.
It's a fantastic dessert. I'm getting all excited about that. Okay. There's another beverage called espresso macchiato, which is now my drink of choice that I have before, actually throughout the day. Yeah, absolutely. Espresso macchiato. Sometimes it's an espresso. Most of the time, macchiato, which just basically means it's the little espresso and it's stained with a little bit of steamed milk. And it's very small and it's delicious. It's a
Really?
nice little pick
I'm
me
gonna
up.
try that this time.
Yeah. Then they have the latte, and then they
Sure.
have the cafe latte.
Yeah.
What's the difference, Kent? Do you know? This is Tour Captain Test.
Man, I was
Okay.
gonna talk about the cappuccino.
Okay, I'll let you do the cappuccino. So if you go up to the bar and you order a latte, well, you're going to get a delicious glass of steamed milk without coffee. So you always want to say, I would like a coffee latte. It's important. And so just know that. Also, when you go into the bars to order some coffee or anything for that matter, you'll save money by standing at the bar. And so when you go into the bar, the first thing you're going to do
You'll
is
see that all over the place.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll check out what you want to buy. Say, if you know, I want to get an espresso macchiato because Mark's story said it's fantastic, and I would like a chocolate croissant. Make sure they have a chocolate croissant. Then you go up to the cashier, Casa, C-A-S-S-A, Casa, and you say, buongiorno, vorrei un espresso macchiato e chocolate croissant. So you'll be able to, then the lady will probably not say anything to you, and you'll just see the amount. It'll be like, $3.50 or whatever. And then you put your money into this little platter thing, and then they pick it up and they put your change back in there, and they give you the receipt. You take the receipt, you go up to the bar, and you stand there. Come closer, Kent. You stand like you horn your way
very
in,
close.
and
Very close.
like you're tight, and so you just kind of keep your hand
Up there.
between Giuseppe and Giulietta as you're waiting to get the attention of the barista, and he or she will come over, look at your order. He may clarify with you,
I'll do a
espresso
little-
macchiato, and you'll say, "See," and then he'll rip it or make a mark on it,
Yeah.
set it back down. You wait.
The fingernail.
They're preparing. Yeah, the fingernail.
Yeah.
They're preparing your coffee and croissant. So you will save money also by standing at the bar versus going to the table for table service. So that's just how it works in Italy.
Yeah.
It's good, helpful information. All the tea lovers out there, similar rules do apply at the bar. So let's see, where do we go from here? This is very important.
Yeah.
On a
Tipping.
Now Journey tour, there is no tipping. All the customary tipping is included. The only person you have to worry about tipping or be concerned about tipping will be your tour captain. And so your tour captain, he or she will do their very best to serve you from beginning to end. And then if you feel like they have done a great job, we don't make a big formal thing about it, but at the very end of the tour, before the trip is over, you can, at your discretion, tip your tour captain. And we do get asked the question a lot about tipping. First of all, in Italy, when you go out for maybe a lunch on your own or a dinner on your own, for example, you might run across when you get the check. How do you say the check?
Oh man.
Il conto. Scusa. Just be polite.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you'll notice is that the servers at these restaurants, They're not going to come up and like refill your water
Right.
and serve you like here in America. That's just not how it works there. And so don't be offended by it, but instead you can go ahead and flag them down and say, may I have some more red wine or this kind of thing. And so at the end, you'll ask for the coperto, your check. They'll bring the check out to you.
Real quick, you have to ask for that because they're not there to flip tables. It's not like here in the States. They're, I mean, even at lunch, or mostly at dinner, but even at lunch, they're not trying to get you out so they can get to the next guest.
Your table is your table for the evening.
Yeah, for the duration. These are professional wait staffs. This is what they do professionally. The other thing I always like to tell people, and just in preparation for this, we go to dinner to get to somewhere else. We go to dinner to go to the theater or go to a movie. In Italy, the dinner is the event. It's the fellowship. It's the evening. That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
And just, no, it's great. And just a quick sidebar, you don't have to really speak Italian
No.
predominantly most of the
No, not
places.
at all.
Every once in a while, there'll be a place where you'll be wanting some Italian, but for the most part, no. And so I just wanted
Right.
to mention that.
Yeah.
It's very important to know that. So once you get your check, you want to inspect the check.
See,
And you will see maybe even the server will say something like, the service is not included, which I've heard that many times on my independent lunches or whatever. The service is not included. And what that is a reaction from the Italian culture to American travelers because we tip. We know that we have, like, I think it's at least 20%.
right. Yeah.
And maybe it's going up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we tip if it's good service, we tip. And so in Italy, they're kind of reacting to that. Some of the servers are, but the reality is that you do tip in Italy. You do tip in Italy, and what you do tip is 1 to 2 euros if you've had a great meal. All right,
Yeah.
hear me say that is because of what Ken said. These are professional servers whose compensation is dramatically different from Italians or
Sure.
from
Oh,
American
yeah.
servers.
Absolutely.
And so they completely have a full-on salary that is different from our American servers who have when I was a server in college,
Oh, yeah.
very
Yeah.
small amount. And so just understand that. And so you will also see on your check servizio. If you see servizio, the
Yeah.
service is included. So they've added a service charge. And
Oh man, what's the other one?
coperto, the cover charge.
Coperto, that's it.
It's
What's
just
check then?
If you see coperto on the check, you'll realize there's a cover charge as well. And that sometimes will be for various things, a cover charge, or they'll say, oh, this is for the bread, or this is for the place settings. It's different things. And they're at their right to do whatever they want
Yeah,
to.
and typically the servizio goes to the waiter, and the coperto goes to the restaurant.
Yes.
If there's sometimes the coperto, the cover charge is included. It's kind of like when you go to a club. My kids tell me this. If you have a cover charge to get into the club, and then you have a 2-drink minimum or whatever. Anyway, you have a cover charge. That's what coperto is, in addition to your bill. And servizio is your tip that goes to the waiter.
Perfecto. So to ask for your check, il conto. Conto per favore, with a nice smile. And the smiles and your attempts to speak a little bit Italian generally goes a long ways there. Which leads us to the next question of, as we mentioned earlier, you don't really need to speak Italian to the hotels. They're all very good English most of the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk just briefly about security. But before we go to security, let's see what questions we have.
Yeah, let's talk about payment.
Yes.
So credit cards. I've even used my Apple Watch to pay before. So they're very, your cards, your Apple Pay works in many, many places. Every once in a while, I'll find a place where it does not work. So it's good to have euros with you or some kind of a debit card that you're going to use.
I would say credit card, not debit card.
Yeah, credit card is better.
Don't use debit
Yeah.
card just because it can be frauded. And we'll talk a little bit about the money here in just a second, about ATMs and that kind of thing. One more question that we have is for our dining experiences, what's kind of the dress code recommendation? And really for the welcome dinner in Bellagio, the welcome dinner in Venice, the farewell dinner in Rome, that's probably it. Those 3 particular dinners, we tend to dress up a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
And it's very easy, for a gent, you can bring a jacket, no ties. bring a jacket. That'll kind of dress you up enough right there. Ladies, dresses or nice slack outfits are a great way to do that as well. And so it works every time on our tours. And so we've never really had anybody, not look good. We did have some in the summertime going into Vatican City. You can't wear too short of shorts. And so
our guide will tell you it has to, for men or women, your shorts have to touch the top of your knees. And for ladies, you can't wear sleeveless.
Or men.
So, no tank tops, but the women can't wear sleeveless. You'd have to grab a shawl or some kind of a jacket to cover yourself.
And every once in a blue moon, a teenager will be there, not from our tour group, of course, but another teenager will be there, and they'll be wrapped in this, what looks like that red plastic tablecloth that you buy at Walmart. And they're walking through the Vatican. So a little bit there about dress code. Great question there. All right, let's talk a little bit about security on tour and before and after the tour. And by security, I mean, we want you just to be feeling confident throughout your journey. And so when you're traveling with us, be it on a walking tour through Venice's Piazza San Marco, or we're on the train from Milano to Venice to Florence, whatever, just know that whenever you're in crowded situations, that's an awesome opportunity for a pickpocket to come over to you and pick your pocket. And so our tour captains will advise you before we get into crowded situations. Just, hey, remember, security alert, gentlemen, keep your wallets in your front pocket if you will. If you have a little backpack, or both men and women, the men's backpack or the men's satchel. Notice that's a satchel and not a man purse. You keep those in the front when we're walking through the different crowded situations, and that's just a good way to do it. And we kind of watch out for each other as well. And so we've had probably in the history of our travel careers, probably 4 instances in the last 15 years or so, where people had a passport stolen or lost, or a purse was stolen. The other thing is when you're dining, ladies and gentlemen who have purses and or satchels, you want to keep that the strap on your knee with your satchel probably between your feet under the table. You'll never put it on the chair, no matter where you're at, just to be safe about that.
Good practice.
A little bit about the hotel and the safety there. Our room safes are generally very secure. We've never had an issue with something in a safe. You can generally fit a MacBook. What is my MacBook? My MacBook is this big. How big is that?
13 or 14 inch.
So I have a 14-inch MacBook that I believe fits in my in the safes throughout Italy. So you can kind of judge that a little bit there. When you're out and about, we do recommend that gentlemen, again, keep your wallets in your front pockets, and keep those backpacks and purses in the front when you're in crowds of people. What about jewelry, Kent?
Typically you never want to bring your best. If you've got, are you stealing my wine? You're stealing my wine. You generally don't want to bring your finest. I know you're going to Italy. It's like a trip of a lifetime. You're thinking, I'm bringing all the best stuff. But just for your own protection, we always advise, bring the B team. It's like stuff that you still love, but maybe it's not your highest end jewelry.
And on the other side of the coin, if you want to wear the high-end valuables, do it and just have a good time, but protect them.
Just protect them. Absolutely.
So, and then we have another video that talks about clothing, like what to pack and that kind of thing. And really the right amount of packing is a personal choice. And on Italy's Great Cities Tour, you'll be happy to know midway through in Cortona, for our deluxe guests, we have an included laundry service, complimentary there in Cortona, which is great. I wouldn't probably send too much of an important item if it has very special instructions, but for the most part, everything is great.
You throw it in there. Yeah, it's fantastic. Comes up nicely folded back in your room. It's beautiful.
Yes, and we had the question about the gentleman. Do I need to wear a sports jacket to dinner, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially in warmer weather, you'll probably not bring the jacket with you, but there are some spoken and unspoken rules for clothing and other things throughout Italy, as in all cultures. And really the season kind of dictates the style and the color. For example, it's kind of funny. Every time I come to Italy before like the 12th of May, all the locals are still in their winter darks.
Full on black.
Just like still got the, wild. And we're like, the sun's out. Yes. Right. And so we always bring the sunshine to the Italians. Maybe that's why they like us. And so because temperatures also play a big role while traveling, we want you to think about in the cooler shoulder months, like right now for May. May is going to be typically a great time. Maybe at the first few couple weeks of May, it could get a little chillier at night, but for the most part, it's going to be great. You could still layer if you want to. Layer.
Always say layers. Yeah, layers are going to be your way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so summertime, you're going to be in typical hot summer weather in late June, July, and August.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sneakers, jeans, ball caps, they're all acceptable in modern Europe.
Yeah.
So just if you want to have a nice hat to keep yourself out of the sun, particularly when you're in Tuscany in the countryside there, hats are completely okay. What else? I think that brings us to maybe one of our last one or two subjects here. And if you have more questions, we'd love to get those now before we wrap it up here. So the end is near. Let's talk about the money. How much money should you bring with you? Generally speaking, and we've shared this at different times with different guests, about 300 euros per person is an average answer that we give back to that question. And the reality is that there'll be the majority of the places when you purchase things, you'll want to use your credit card because you'll get the best exchange rate of the day when you do that. And like your different technology works at most places actually. And then you'll use your cash maybe for if you're taking a taxi somewhere, or perhaps there's a vendor somewhere that just wants cash for that particular item. So that's okay to do. If you need more cash in Italy, we recommend using the ATM. That's really the only viable solution these days. And so you'll want to have your PIN number memorized. You'll also want to make sure when you go up to the ATM that you're going to kind of inspect it. You're just going to make sure it's a valid ATM, that there's not some kind of a fake front on it that's just going to copy your number. These things do happen. And so you also want to protect it from onlookers as well. I've had my debit card absolutely frauded, stolen. And it was so annoying. I had no idea how they did it.
I will always look for an ATM either at a bank, like you go into the entryway, they have an ATM before you enter the bank. Those seem to be pretty safe. Also, any ATM that has the British flag on it, just so it's recognizable. The other thing about the ATM is just real quick is that when you put your card in, it will take your card, and then you'll do all your stuff, and then if you don't take it within a short amount of time, typically 30 seconds, it will take your card. So you want to be sure and just receive your card back.
Yes. Another thing about in the hotel room, and I'm jumping back a little bit here, but the great question about what if I have, medical devices or camera equipment or things like that. Typically, if it fits in the safe, if it's valuable, essential, and I try to make sure I keep it in the safe, that's what I would recommend. If it doesn't fit in the safe, then I typically, this is just one of the things I do. I know a lot of people do it. I put a do not disturb on my door sign, and I tell the front desk, I don't want my room clean today or while I'm here, just because I've got stuff strewed everywhere in there. And so there's a couple different ways you can do that. By telling the front desk, please make sure no cleaning people enter my room. That will be a great way to protect your information there as well. Another great question in regards to security and personal security. When you are out and about, you don't really need to take your passport with you. You can leave it in your safe. So just know that. That's a great question there from Lisa.
And we'll always try to remind you before we leave a hotel, before we leave a city, the tour captain, this is what I try to always do, tell my group, hey, make sure you got your passport out of the safe, because I've had people, even with the reminders, forget their passport, and then you leave the city, and it becomes a situation kind of when you're trying to maneuver down through the different cities. The Italian mail doesn't, even when it says overnight or next day, it's traditionally not. So, but yeah, just try to remember to get everything with you, and we always try to remind you as well.
One other thing I was going to mention about security and personal security that has just left my mind right now.
It's because you stole my wine.
It's probably because I saw your wine thing. All right. So we were talking about the passports and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so we keep a copy. I take a picture of my passport and I have it in the cloud, if you will. And so that way, if it does get stolen, don't fret too much. There are American consulates in many of the cities that we're traveling through, and we've dealt with that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Not a lot, but it's many times. So just know that that's it's not the end of the world. Don't let it ruin your vacation.
Absolutely not. And what other tours? You're doing Puglia, and then what else are you doing this year?
Yeah, so I'm doing Puglia, which is going to be fantastic. We're flying into Bari, which is Polignano a Mare. Polignano a Mare.
I'm so jealous. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Then we go to Matera and then to Lecce. Lecce is known as the Florence of the South. And then after that, I'm doing a Great Cities tour, a full on, just like you're doing, from Lake Como down to the Amalfi Coast. And then after that, I'm doing a private villa tour into Umbria, which is the region just under Tuscany. So wonderful. And then later this fall, I'm also doing the Portugal, a week in Portugal, followed by our signature Spain adventure. I don't normally do this many tours in one year.
That's crazy. Yeah, you got a lot.
And so I'm very excited about those trips.
Yeah.
What are you doing this year?
Well, we'll be doing the Italy tours kicking off this Sunday. So I cannot wait.
I can't believe it's already here.
I know. And then in the fall, I'll be doing the tour Australia to New Zealand. I think 14, 15, 16 days.
Yeah.
So we go, from Cairns to Sydney to Melbourne. We go out into the outback, and then we go do a flight hop down to New Zealand and Queenstown and Auckland, and oh my goodness. Yeah. So that's going to be in the fall. So yeah.
So I didn't want to tell you this, but I was really thinking about me taking that tour, but I'm not going to.
You don't have time.
I know. I technically could, but I would be exhausted.
I thought you were saying you were going to come on my tour, like be on the tour.
Well, I could possibly do that as well. There was one other question from a guest with the debit cards. Typically, I try to avoid using debit cards unless it's at an institution, like if it's one of our regular restaurants or if it's the hotel, that would be okay. But other places, I just will not use my debit card because I would give too much access. Of course, your debit cards are probably insured with your banks, and so you're probably covered from fraud. But we just try to err on the side of caution there.
Always.
All righty.
That's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information, but we're just happy that you all joined us and endured for this amount of time.
Yeah,
we're
thank you so much.
For everybody here, Sherry Moore, our owner, Jeff Chaffin, Kent Rogers, and myself, we really do want to say thank you for trusting and investing, if you will, in Now Journey. And we can't wait to serve you on your journey, on your adventures that are coming up soon.
Absolutely.
Yep. Have a great night. Bye-bye.